Hi YouTube, it's Carly and I'm coming to you with a how-to video on how to clean your saddle. Cleaning your saddle I think is an incredibly beneficial not only for the saddle's longevity but also for your safety. Being in the show ring is really not the place to find out that something was broken or needs repair. So keeping up with your saddle cleaning will definitely keep you and your horse safe. Real quick disclaimer. Not all saddles need the same products. Double check with the manufacturer of your saddle to make sure that the products that you're using are going to be safe for that leather. You can either go to the saddle's website or even call the dealer and they would be happy to help you. So that's a quick disclaimer. However, all the products that I use, I've never had a problem with them damaging leather. And I will link all of those items in the bottom bar. It will take you to SmartPak. And that way you can read the manufacturer's write-up of the item, be more beneficial to you in your situation. Alright, so we're going to jump on it, and I'm going to walk you through how I clean my saddle and keep it in good repair. So happy tack cleaning! Alright, so this is the saddle we'll be cleaning today. You notice that I have a dust cover on it. This is a pretty smart preventative measure to keep surface dust off of the saddle in between rides and to keep the sun off of the saddle. The sunlight is actually quite drying on leather, so this is just a good preventative measure to take. So our first step is just wiping the surface dust off of the leather. We're just going to be using kind of just a shop rag, just a spare rag and some warm water. It actually doesn't matter whether you use warm or cold. I just think it's cleaner using warm, but that's just me. And we're going to just wipe it all over the saddle, getting all the crooks and crannies to get all the dust off before we start applying our soap. So here we're putting the rag all over the saddle and paying a lot of attention to high traffic areas as well. I'm going to really look at the saddle flaps and make sure that they're clean and clear. You want to really look out for what's called dirt jockeys, I think is what they're called. And these are just kind of grimy buildups that form with dirt and friction over time. Luckily this saddle actually doesn't have any. But doing this once over with the rag is actually a pretty smart thing to do after all of your rides as well, just to, you have to reduce the number of times that you have to clean your saddle. This is also a great way to kind of inspect your saddle. This is actually the first real good look I'm getting at this saddle. I've just had it a little while, and like this is giving me a chance to see, oh look, that's, you know, kind of stiff, and I can look at these billets and see they're a little stiff too. So it just gives you a good time to inspect your saddle, look for anything that's going to need repairing or anything that's wearing out. Alright, well, we are on to the second step of the cleaning process. And we're actually applying our cleaner this time. I'm just using a little small round tack sponge. You can buy these at your local tack store for like 90 cents a piece. They last forever. They're really nice little sponges. And we're just using Lexol's pH Balanced Leather Cleaner. This is a really nice cleaner. I've really become fond of it. It's light enough for real sensitive and fine leathers, but it's still strong enough that it's going to get, you know, the deep down grime that's caked into your saddle. Again, like before, really focus on the high traffic areas and make sure you really scrub out all the ickies. And just use circular motions in order to kind of scrub it. I'm doing a lot of scrubbing here, goodness. Oh, there's the dirt we brought up. That's what's left over even after we wiped it. Bottoms of the flaps, that's really important too. Oh, apparently I didn't think it was that important. There we go. The billets, really pay attention to them too. They get real nasty, and those are really something you need to check for. As soon as those start tearing and cracking, you need to have them replaced immediately. Also focusing on the underside, really every square inch of the saddle needs to be cleaned. I mean, I can't put any plainer than that. Everything needs to be clean. And now I am determined to, there we go. We got that to move. Then we clean up under there as well. It was so stiff, it's probably hasn't been cleaned much under there. So this is our next step. We're just taking a clean, dry rag and buffing the saddle. Alright, so this step is kind of unique to my saddle. I felt that it was really kind of dry and it needed some loosening up. So I'm actually applying oil. The oil that I am applying is actually Neatsfoot oil. I find it superior for breaking in new leather and softening old leather. So it's definitely one of my favorite products to use. You can also use olive oil. Some people use that, and there's lots of different oils in the market. You can kind of play around with it and find what you like the best. I'm applying it only to the undersides of the leather. It's called the flesh side. It kind of resembles like rough out leather. And this will absorb the leather a lot more quickly and more effectively. It will soften the leather a lot better than if you just put it on the smooth side. Also, oils tend to darken leather, so it's definitely best to put on the underside, especially if you're concerned with retaining the color. And I'm just applying this with a paintbrush. It's just a little disposable paintbrush I picked up at Home Depot. And I just pour the oil of my choosing into a little plastic cup and just use the paintbrush to apply it. Works great, and I like it better than using a sponge because a sponge can get real saturated in the oil and gets all over your hands and all over everything else and just gets gunky. And you'll never really be able to get all of it out. So I just chose this paintbrush and I just reuse it every time I need the oil put on. Alright, next step is our conditioner. For this particular saddle, I'm using Effax Lederbalsam. This is actually a wax-based conditioner. It's derived from beeswax. These Lederbalsams have really kind of picked up in popularity. A lot of different companies make them. I tend to like this Effax brand. And just applying it with a little sponge. Make sure that the sponge you use, you keep for your wax-based conditioners. It's pretty hard to get it off once it's on. So the sponge I'm using is the sponge that I use for that purpose. And just rubbing it in. A little goes a long way, so be careful not to use too much of it. It's very, very rich. And this will not change the color of the leather either. So it's put it all over the top, don't worry about it, and really make sure you get it in all the areas, especially areas that are going to move. You want them to be nice and supple, and really focus on those billet straps again. Those need to be nice and supple. You definitely don't want those dry or cracked at all. Okay, we're going to take a clean dry rag and just after letting the Lederbalsam soak for a while, just kind of buff it off, make it nice and smooth, kind of get all the excess. Our final step is actually some glycerin soap. We're going to dump the bar itself in water and then use a dry sponge to apply it. This is going to seal the pores of the leather. It's going to give it a nice sheen, and it's going to give the leather a bit of tackiness. Alright, we are totally done. The leather feels awesome, nice and clean and supple. Our dust cover goes back on, and the saddle's now ready to go back into my tack locker.